What's up, everybody? My name is Godzi, and welcome back to some more Umineko When They Cry questions arc. You might notice the sound quality is considerably better now, and that's because, for the first 33 episodes, meaning every episode before this, I have been using everything through one audio channel, meaning the game audio was coming through my speakers and into my microphone. Reason being, there was no option to decrease the volume of the game audio, so the game audio was always far too loud compared to my voice. But now, there's an option to lower the volume, so that's good. And in fact, I should probably lower it a little bit more, because I don't know for sure how loud it will be. This should probably be fine, so yeah. So, without further ado, let's just get back into this. Last episode, we, continued with Chapter 3 and also started using this very nice-looking patch with all the new sprites and whatnot. I do think a lot of them look considerably better, even though some of them I prefer the old ones for. Like, I definitely prefer Kumasawa's old one. Probably Shannon's also, I don't know. And Hideyoshi's, definitely, but regardless, let's get back into this. There was a different line, but whatever. There was something that was, I know there was a different line there, but whatever. Guess we'll start from here. I heard that in the end, our parents were unable to get grandfather to respond. Well, I hate to say it, but I feel like giving grandfather a high five right now. He was probably pretty satisfied with how his strange letter had given his children a good shock, since they'd all been so infatuated with the inheritance problem while grandfather was still alive. I also felt like our despicable parents had gotten what they deserved in all of this confusion. But I couldn't really say that I was feeling great. I felt all sulky. Apparently grandfather hadn't seemed concerned with the whole thing, but he also hadn't denied anything about the letter either. Oh wow, that's a very HD letter. When talking about the witch's letter, grandfather's name kept popping up. If grandfather knew that someone was stealing his name, then considering his character, he'd probably be mad with rage. But even though grandfather now knew the contents of that letter, he coldly ignored it. So, did that count as a silent yes? Aunt Eva and Dad were trying to interpret the letter in their favor, their greed clearly visible. It wouldn't have mattered so much if that was all, but the adults had now started focusing on Maria, who had received the letter. They kept pounding her with questions about who had given it to her. Maria repeated over and over again that she had gotten it from Beatrice, but there was no way such a mysterious person could have sneaked onto the island. After all, this island's small, and there's no one living on it outside the Ushiromiyas family household. Maria kept repeating that she'd gotten it from Beatrice no matter how many times she was asked. The adults seemed to think she was trying to trick them, so they didn't hold back and questioned her until she broke out in tears. When Maria was released, she sobbed, all worn out from crying. After our parents ordered us to go to the guest house and take Maria with us, they shut themselves up in the dining hall and started getting louder and louder as they discussed the inheritance. It seemed that, because of that strange letter, Uncle Krause's chances of becoming the next head might have been reduced to a blank slate. And in exchange for accepting him, my dad and the rest were trying to swindle Uncle Krause out of a lot of money, or something like that. Disgusted as we were, Jessica and I were happy to move over to the guest house. We didn't want to be under the same roof as those filthy adults, their heads so filled with thoughts about money. George pleaded on our parents' behalf, saying that he wanted us to understand them. I understood his reasoning. No matter how filthy this talk of money was, it wouldn't go away if you just closed your eyes to it. But even so, how could they sink so low as to overtly fight over the money of the dead? My brother's singing for some reason. Apparently Fortnite makes you break out into song. So what the hell's going on now? Oh yeah, also, I feel like I need to bring this up. The scene with Rosa and Maria at the end of Chapter 2, I feel like I didn't appreciate that enough. Because seriously, that was some cool shit. Like, it didn't really cross my mind that, oh, Rosa's beating up all these fucking goat guys using a gun and a fountain pen and a blanket with a gold ingot in it. Like, seriously, that's some badass shit. And I never really mentioned that. I was just kind of reading and mindlessly going, yeah, this is happening. But no, that's shit that doesn't happen. That's kinda crazy. I still think Rose is the Chapter 2 culprit, though. Maria had cried herself dry and was hiding in her bed. She hadn't even twitched for a while, so she was probably sleeping. Who in the world gave that letter to Maria? George, you can't ask her that anymore. Isn't it fine to say that Maria got it from Beatrice and leave it at that? After all, we don't want to make her cry any more than this. Even though we said that, we couldn't clear away a gloomy feeling. There are only 18 people on this island now. The thought that somewhere in the rain, a 19th person gave Maria that letter and is now hiding somewhere doesn't seem realistic at all. Most likely, somebody got Shannon or someone to put on the dress from that portrait, and cleverly got Maria to go along with their story. Though in Maria's case, just seeing the dress would probably convince her that it really was Beatrice. Maybe it doesn't really matter who handed her the letter. The important thing is who sent it. The point is that grandfather wanted to cause an uproar by assuming the name of the witch. Seriously, that old geezer's good at riling people up. The most likely answer is that our occult-loving grandfather was playing around, handing the letter over to Maria, who shares the same hobby as he does in such a dramatic way. Though he failed to give any thought for what Maria would have to go through, making it a pretty shitty thing to do. Seriously, messing around with Maria's pure heart. It doesn't matter who handed the letter over. Maria says she got it from Beatrice, so let's treat it that way. I agree. Let's do that. To Maria, Beatrice is kind of like what Santa Claus is to most kids. Whether we're dealing with some non-existent 19th person or Santa Claus, as long as we all acknowledge them, they'll at least exist inside Maria. I see. Guess it can be important to lie to a child to protect their dreams. What's up, Jessica? Are you still angry? Jessica had her hand on her chin, as though there was something that she just couldn't understand. But you have to imagine that her hand's on her chin, you see? When I called out to her, she came to her senses. Sorry. Well, actually, I was wondering if Maria might have actually met Beatrice. What do you mean by that? Are you saying there's a 19th person on this island? If you truly take Maria's words to heart, then you would arrive at that answer. No, that's not what I mean. I'm talking about the story that someone we don't know has been living on this island since long ago. Living, you say? Where? In the forest. Okay. That's some loud thunder. Hopefully I turned down the sound enough. Even though I probably didn't. Just in case, I'm gonna turn it down a little bit more when I get the opportunity to, of course. Because if I right-click right now, nothing happens. Okay, here we go. System. Voice and sound effect. Down. Music and sound effect. Voices are already all the way down. Okay. I guess that's a glitch. It just skips over... Yeah, it just skips over the line that's supposed to be right here, but whatever. Kraus strongly claimed that the letter was a simple prank, but he couldn't overturn the claim that Kinzo's failure to deny the letter was an answer enough. Judging by Kinzo's character, if he knew that a letter had been written in his name, he would be mad with rage. Since all of the siblings knew that, Kraus had no choice but to withdraw his claim. Shut up, Kraus. You still live in your parents' house. Without even having to summarize it, the contents of the letter were simple. The person who could solve the witch's epitaph would receive the headship and assets. This did a lot of damage to Kraus, who had been sure that he would receive the headship, and was better news than the rest of them, who had already given up, could have hoped for. However, there were some points that worried them. The person who solved the epitaph was not limited to a member of the Ushiromiyas family. Taken literally, anyone, no matter how doubtful their origin, might receive the headship. And furthermore, this meant that there was a chance that all of the Ushiromiyas family assets would be stolen by some unknown person. In that sense, it was definitely not a situation where even the other siblings could afford to lower their guard. Had this letter come from an assassin sent by Kinzo, calling themselves Beatrice? Or was this a scheme of some unknown person trying to steal the Ushiromiyas family's wealth? They still didn't know the truth. But they could say one thing for certain. Maria had received this problematic letter today on this island. In other words, someone planning something to do with that letter was on this island today. Had it been set up by Kinzo, one of the 4 siblings, or maybe some unknown person? No matter how much they suspected each other, they couldn't reach a conclusion. After getting tired of bickering with each other, they finally reached the extremely obvious conclusion that doubting each other was just a waste of time. Yeah, no shit. And so, we've made no progress. We've just been spinning our wheels. That's right. And the mere fact that you've realized it means we won't have to waste any more time. It is not certain that Father sent the letter. My husband is merely exasperated by your inability to hold a conversation. Who's unable to hold a conversation? You keep yelling at me every time I say something. Do you truly think that such shameful behavior is fitting for a member of the Ushiromiyas family? Would you give it a rest, Eva? You too, Natsuhi. That topic's finished for now. Shall we all cool our heads off for now? Let's have some cool drinks brought over. That sounds good. It would probably be wiser if we cooled our heads. Don't you want to take a short break too, dear? Sis looks like she's in a bad mood, so I'll pass on that break. But I agree about the cool drinks. Rosa, have someone bring some water. A whole pitcher. Yes, understood. Rosa headed over to the extension telephone in a corner of the room and called the servant room. She then passed on what Rudolph had told her to the person on the other end. The vicious bickering up until now vanished as though it had been a lie. That silence continued until Goda finished setting the table and retreated from the room. Is there anything else that you require? No. Please leave us. Okay, fine, bitch. Yes. Then if you will excuse me. If you need anything, call me at any time. After listening to the sound of Goda's footsteps disappear off into the distance, everyone took a deep breath at the same time to break the tension. It sure is raining hard. I wonder if this 19th person is taking shelter in the Rose Garden Arbor about now. I wonder. They might be able to escape the rain there, but it would be quite cold. A mysterious 19th person is a visitor. Sounds pretty interesting, just like a mystery novel. It's like we're in one. Normally in that kind of story, it's a safe bet that the person doesn't exist. That one of us 18 will be faking it. It's almost as if you are. I suspect Genji and the others. Just as I thought, it would have been better if we had dismissed all of the servants of the One-Legged Eagle, no matter what excuses we had to make. Come now, don't say that. We must be grateful for their long years of service. Of course, we can't let our guard down. Were they planning on firing Shannon, Cannon, and Genji? That'd be weird. I mean, you don't have to do that, but whatever. I'm sure you agree too, Kraus, that whether or not Father was behind this, the person who handed Maria the letter was a servant. Indeed. In any event, we were all being friendly in our big happy circle until dinner, weren't we? All of the siblings have alibis. Only a servant could have handed Maria that letter. But all of the servants said that they were too busy with the bed making to have any spare time during which they could go to Maria in the Rose Garden. Hey, what are you trying to say then? Hey. You aren't saying that the Witch of the Forest, Beatrice, came over and actually handed Maria that letter, are you? Rosa, you used to believe in that so much, it really frightened you, right? Don't tell me you still believe at this age in the Witch of the Forest. If she did it... Oh, it's young Eva again. If she did exist, I'd love for her to appear. But no matter how much I wished, she didn't appear before me even once. She didn't save me from my crisis. Of course not. I just thought that since all 18 of us said we didn't do it, there might really be a 19th person. That can't be. In the first place, we were the only ones who came in on that boat. We didn't see any mysterious stranger riding with us. You don't think they could have swam across this rough sea, right? I really can't imagine it. Wahahaha. Logically, that's true. It is difficult to imagine that there's a single hidden and uninvited guest on this isolated island. However, It looks like some of us still can't abandon the possibility completely, right? I really don't know who it would be. I mean, if everyone has alibis, then that leaves the only person who could dress up as Beatrice to give Maria the letter would be Jessica. Right? Hideyoshi had laughed it off, saying there couldn't be a 19th person. But Kyrie had sensitively picked up on the delicate atmosphere among the 4 siblings. In a normal situation, there shouldn't have been any uninvited guests on this small, isolated island. How would they have come here, and from where? And where were they hiding? And why hadn't they appeared openly, even though they had sent a letter in their name? Nothing could explain that. But not only had the 4 siblings not joined in on Hideyoshi's laughing, they also seemed unable to completely deny in their hearts the possibility of a 19th person. Kyrie, please don't misunderstand. It's not as though we believe in anything like that fairy tale-like legend of the witch. Is this another topic to insult Father? Simply speaking of such a thing is a betrayal against him. I wonder. However, this is Father we're talking about. It could be possible, right? I don't know anything. What's this? What's this? Why has everyone gotten so gloomy? What are you talking about? In short, the legend of the witch isn't a joke, but a fact? That's ridiculous. Of course, nobody believes in some witch riding a broom and flying in the sky. But the woman in that portrait, Beatrice, might really have existed on this island.
Hideyoshi, it looks like we aren't talking about a witch, but something a little simpler. So it must be something like this. Everyone suspects that Father had a mistress named Beatrice secretly living somewhere on this island. Is that it?
Oh Christ, she's going crazy.
Father was always exemplary at keeping strictly to the rules. It is completely inconceivable that he would bring something so filthy onto this island.
Natsuhi snapped at them immediately, but it looked like the 4 siblings, including Kraus, didn't agree. On the contrary, they appeared to think Kinzo wouldn't even have hesitated to do something like that. From the beginning, it had been whispered that Kinzo had built a mansion on this island specifically because of the existence of an entrancing mistress. I'm sorry, Natsuhi. I know how much you respect Dad, but that rumor's been around for a long time. All the buildings on Rokkenjima were built by Dad on his own. People have always guessed he had some contraption or secret room set up in this mansion that only he knew about. And it's always been whispered that, hidden somewhere on this island, there's a secret mansion none of us know about. Really?
I see. This island might look small on a map, but it's quite large for just the Ushiromiyas family to live on. So people have suspected that he built a secret mansion somewhere in the uncivilized forest for his mistress to live in. That would be quite a large-scale scheme.
In the beginning, people thought it might be somewhere inside this mansion. That there might be a hidden basement, with a fabulous hidden room, where the witch in that portrait was secretly hiding. After seeing that intricate autolock on Dad's study, it isn't too hard to imagine, right? After all, Father did spread the rumor that a large amount of gold was hidden somewhere by some mechanism. I wouldn't be surprised if there existed some hidden room inside this very mansion that none of us knows about yet.
When Mother was alive, she would often scour the entire mansion searching for Father when he wasn't anywhere to be found. Mother also suspected what Rudolph just said. She believed there was a hidden door or stairway somewhere, and that his blonde-haired mistress was hidden behind it.
It's hard to believe, but there are some actual examples in other countries of people cheating with someone over a period of several decades by making them live in a hidden attic room. Furthermore, Kinzo had a mansion this extravagant. It was possible to suspect the existence of a hidden room.
From what I've heard, the legend of the Rokkenjima witch was just a fairy tale made up to scare children away from the uncivilized forest. But it's starting to sound like there's a little more to this story.
Well, as you know, this is a lonely island without anything but the Ushiromiyas mansion on it. When Rosa and I were little brats, on stormy nights we got so scared by the sound of trees rustling in the direction of the forest. We had this crazy delusion that something weird might be looking out at us from between those trees. It's only natural for a brat to think of stuff like that. But when Rosa and I complained about it, some people figured it was more than a brat's imagination. Isn't that right, sis?
Yeah. Brother and I thought you might have coincidentally spotted Father's mistress, living in secrecy on this island, as she went out for a walk when no one was looking. Of course, Mother felt the same.
Even among the older servants, you often heard that ghost story about how the Witch of the Portrait wanders the mansion at midnight. Outwardly, I laughed it off as just a ghost story, but on the inside, I suspected very much that it hinted at the existence of a hidden mistress. In that case, you're saying that the existence of a 19th person might not be completely ridiculous? That's a little bit of a format error. That they might actually be somewhere around here?
Sounds like one of those devil's proofs Rudolph's always talking about. It might be possible to prove that there is a 19th person, but it's impossible to prove that a 19th person doesn't exist. Should we continue this discussion under the assumption that there's a person named Beatrice hiding somewhere on this island?
That's a good plan, from the perspective of risk management. It's probably much more prudent to say she might exist rather than saying she couldn't exist. I see. Sorry, I was a bit careless. Rosa, sorry for laughing just now.
Huh? It's fine. I don't mind.
Hideyoshi apologized deeply for taking the worst-case scenario lightly, despite calling himself the president of the company. Silence fell again. Preparing for the existence of a 19th person would mean, in effect, acknowledging the presence of some unknown person hidden on the island. And since this person might be planning something shady, it was only natural that the conversation would turn into an ominous direction. In the past, Father would sometimes suddenly disappear without telling anyone where he went. After all, he is a man who values silence. It wouldn't have been out of the ordinary for him to shut himself up in some library room after purposefully not telling anyone where he was going. However, when the witch theory was slowly refined into the theory about his mistress, people eventually whispered that he was secretly going back and forth to see her. Mom was totally paranoid in her last years. She'd sometimes suddenly start making a fuss, asking the servants to start looking for Dad immediately because of some urgent situation.
Yes, that did happen sometimes. Mother was always doing things like that in her later years, and that frightening atmosphere still hasn't gone away. I can say it for certain now. She was a person to be pitied.
So then, what happened with those large-scale searches of the house? Did they find anything?
No. Father wasn't caught foolishly in a hidden room even once. Always, after a long time had passed, he would suddenly show up somewhere. Then he'd say he'd taken a nap in some library room, or that the wind had summoned him to take a walk on the beach. But it was always someplace where the servants had already looked. We never knew where Father had gone. Even at that time, Grandfather was famous for his occult inclinations. So some of the servants exaggerated, saying that he might have turned into butterflies and danced around the rose garden.
Okay, sure.
So in short, Father frequently disappeared, and no one knew where he went.
Yeah. Since we couldn't find him no matter how much we looked inside the mansion, we got more and more sure that Dad might have been somewhere outside. But the area outside the mansion isn't large at all, which leaves only the forest. And if you tie that in with the legend of the witch, you get a theory like this. Father actually built a hidden mansion somewhere in the forest, inside of which a mistress by the name of Beatrice lived, and he sometimes went to see her. I was also young at that time. I was so eager to find where Father was having his affair that at one time, I followed him when he went outside. Of course, it was a failure. Every time Father went out, he was oddly intent on avoiding places where he might be seen, and was extremely careful to prevent anyone from spotting him. And he was extraordinarily earnest in his attempts to do so. But that actually made me sure. He must have been going out for some reason that the members of his family couldn't know about. Okay, so that all but confirms there's a hidden mansion somewhere on this island, or just a house in general. And Dad'd be going to meet his mistress. Probably trying to avoid being seen. After seeing Hideyoshi nod and say yes, yes, as though this was quite obvious, Eva got a little sullen.
Well, anyway, this island was like a sketchbook in which Father, with his Western obsession, could draw out all of his dreams. Everything about this island was exactly how Father wanted it. It wouldn't be odd at all if there was a hidden mansion somewhere for his mistress to live in.
Eva's words spoke for what all of the siblings had come to think. For a while, the room returned to silence again, and everyone listened to the sound of the wind and rain. Was there a hidden mansion on this island, and had Kinzo's mistress been living there in hiding for a long, long time? Everyone thought they were being too suspicious, and they hesitated for a long time without speaking. But everyone shared a common opinion. Kyrie, who had been listening the whole time with her eyes closed, spoke to no one in particular.
How long has this rumor about Father's mistress been around?
As soon as we moved to this island, about 30 years ago. After all, it probably would have been impossible for him to have a hidden mansion built while we were here. People and materials would have to be going in and out. It would have been exposed quickly. So if it was possible, it happened before we moved here. It probably couldn't have been built along with this mansion when we were still living in Odawara.
They weren't always living in this mansion? That's interesting. Since Father had to set up a double life with his family and his mistress, it's probably reasonable to assume that he had it all planned from the beginning. And his relationship with that mistress probably went back to the days when we lived in Odawara.
Probably. If, as Father says, she is the source of the vast amount of gold he used to gain the funds that resurrected the Ushiromiyas family, we could probably conclude that they had a close relationship since Odawara. A relationship trusting enough for her to lend him a vast quantity of gold. I can't even imagine how old that relationship must have been.
Perhaps Father gave her some kind of valuable advice for succeeding in business. It's natural to think that out of a sense of gratitude for that, this person gave Father the gold. If you think about it that way, it's obvious that they would have a close relationship after that. Rather than a festering relationship with a mistress, it was probably a relationship of gratitude to the person who saved the Ushiromiyas family from its crisis.
I don't know if what Nazi he's saying has a ring of truth to it or not, but even in that case, isn't building a hidden mansion and having her live in it going a bit too far? Doesn't that mean they felt something a bit more than gratitude? Well, this is all just speculation. In the first place, no one's ever found that hidden mansion. Bro, you were planning on expanding this island into a resort, right? As you were doing that, you didn't manage to stumble on it by chance, did you? Maybe you even bumped into some gold there, too.
Hahaha. Do you think Rokkenjima is Treasure Island or something?
That's a reference from the future, Kraus.
Don't play dumb. We know that, although you say you're opening a resort, you really have been planning to investigate the entire island, right? Judging by all that trouble and confusion we were talking about earlier, you haven't been very successful, have you?
I don't know what you're talking about, but it's a misunderstanding. Isn't it perfectly natural that investigating this island would be the first step in turning it into a resort? Kraus tried to play dumb, but it was plainly obvious to his siblings, who knew him so well. Kraus was definitely sure of the existence of a hidden mansion, and under the pretense of opening a resort, he had been closely investigating the island, searching for a clue as to the location of the hidden gold. They couldn't tell whether that conviction was just him overthinking things, or whether it was based on some physical proof. Still, if Kraus with all his gil was sure, that was enough proof for the other siblings to be sure too. I have a collection of figures from Street Fighter. The story about a witch living in a forest is obviously a fairy tale, but the story about some blonde-haired girl living secretly in a mansion no one knows about in the middle of the forest isn't much better.
That's right. That really would be just like a fairy tale. You like those, don't you, Rosa? Huh? Well,
she isn't talking too much. When the mansion was built on this island, Father was at the height of his prosperity. With his money, he could probably obtain anything, make any of his wild imaginings real. A mansion in the forest where a witch quietly waits. Sounds like the kind of situation Father would like. That was Hideyoshi's voice, I just realized. Doesn't it? Like something from the occult or a fairy tale. It feels like Dad's kind of hobby. On this island, on which the Ushiromiyas family had lived for 30 years now, a hidden mansion that no one knew about had been quietly built to house a witch, about whom nothing was known except what could be guessed from a portrait. Even this hastily thrown together theory might not be completely delusional, considering all of Kinzo's strange habits and his vast wealth.
It might not have been impossible for Father to build a hidden mansion to satisfy his dreams. However, let's be realistic. Would it be possible to house his beloved woman in that hidden mansion for decades without it becoming inconvenient? Well, if there was love, it could have been doable, right? Think of the facilities needed to let his beloved woman live healthily, and in a way that would satisfy Father. For example, even if it was on a small scale, it would have to be an intricate and pleasant residence. and would probably need to have electricity, gas, and running water maintained, as well as some people to see to her needs. Even cooking would be quite difficult. She would need clothes and makeup, the daily necessities. The needs of a woman aren't simple. Would it be possible to maintain all of that without any of the family or servants noticing?
When you say it that way, it sure sounds like a weak point in our theory. But that isn't enough to get rid of my feeling that Dad might have been able to do it anyway. After all, it's Dad we're talking about.
That's right. It's our father.
In that case, with the electricity, does it use, like, solar panels? Were those invented in the 80s? Because if they didn't, there's a power line somewhere that if you follow it will lead you to the mansion, that mansion, right? Hold on. Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. Travel down, you will see a village. In that village, look for the shore the two will tell you of. There sleeps the key to the Golden Land. The one who obtains the key must then travel to the Golden Land in accordance with these rules. Sweetfish River. Sweetfish. Why Sweetfish? Sweetfish River running through my beloved hometown. If there's a power line, follow its path downstream in search of the key. Does Sweetfish River not refer to an actual river, but to a power line? I'm confused. Okay, I'm gonna pull my laptop here and look up what sweetfish are. Because I know exactly what a river is. Like, it'd be one thing if he said Electric Eel River, because that would make it a lot more obvious. But if sweetfish have something to do with electricity, then that would certainly make it a lot more interesting. And can my laptop work, please? It's such a shitty laptop. Whatever, we're gonna keep reading. Oh, never mind. It just worked. I'll open up Google and search what it means as I continue to read. And I have a Cuphead video open. Of course I do. I like watching people rage at Cuphead compilations. It's very fun. I should play Cuphead sometime. That'd be fun. Google.com.
If Father wanted to succeed in an endeavor, he would succeed no matter what. Saying that something would be difficult for a normal person and therefore impossible doesn't apply when it comes to Father.
Okay, go to Google. Indeed. You should never underestimate Father. Father's madness can't be understood by normal people. Okay, what are sweetfish? Let us see. Sweetfish or ayu. A species of fish, it is the only species in the genus Plecoglossus and family Plecoglossidae. It is a relative of smelts and other fish in the order Osmeriformes. The name sweetfish was inspired by the sweetness of its flesh. It's a game fish. Let's keep just looking at this. I wouldn't put it past that Kinzo. As long as you stick to this phrase, a considerable amount of credibility can dwell in any absurd story. However, that didn't cause the importance of what Kyrie had said to waver. This was different from stealthily raising a kitten in a cardboard box and keeping it a secret from your parents. Taking care of a person in secret over a period of 30 years would be an incalculably massive task. Okay. So, let's see. Native to East Asia, a few landlocked populations also exist. It says they're usually moving between lakes and rivers. Subspecies, biology, feeds on algae that accumulates on the rocks. Human uses, it's fished commercially. Its common method is to skewer it in a way so that its body forms a wave, making it look as though it's swimming. Domesticated birds? What? Fish trap, fly fishing. It doesn't tell me that it has anything to do with electricity. Sweetfish, natural predators. Because if they're eaten by eels, adult sunfish are vulnerable to a few natural predators, but sea lions, killer whales, and sharks will consume them. Among humans, sunfish are considered a delicacy in parts of the world. I did not look up sunfish. I looked up sweetfish. Light yellow or olive colored. Okay. We're getting somewhere. Sorry if this is a little boring. I'm trying to figure this out. Because if it has something to do with electricity at all, then it stands to reason that Sweetfish River, through my hometown, could mean something like follow the power line from my, house. I feel like it has to have something to do with symbolism. It is distinguished by a rigid tongue, a sail-like dorsal fin, and teeth arranged on saw-edged plates at the sides of the jaws. Yeah, it's not telling me anything interesting here. Let's just keep that power line theory, for now. So, let's just continue this. After all, Father's legend of the gold started before he gained possession of Rokkenjima. That'd mean his relationship with his mistress was over 30 years long. How old would that make her? In the worst case, she could be as old as us or older, right? By that age, the body starts to break down. I don't care what the mansion's like. I wouldn't use the word agreeable to describe living in a place where people's eyes can't reach, almost like she was under house arrest. That's right. If what Father told us about Beatrice is true, then that relationship has lasted for over 30 years. She might have been a charming young woman at the time, but it probably makes sense to assume she's an old bag like us now. I can easily imagine that, given the contents of that letter. You should talk. Krause laughed as if none of this applied to him. Of course Eva was offended, but she didn't strike back. Quit it, bro. So if everything we're thinking's true, then she should be joining in on Dad's inheritance problem with her head held high. After all, there's a good chance their love was mutual, unlike with Mom. Even if she knows she's his mistress, she might also be proud to be his true wife.
That is an insult to Mother.
Yeah, sorry. However, everyone knows that it was a political marriage decided on by the elders among his relatives. Because of that, it definitely wouldn't be strange for Dad to have a mistress. The family sank after the Great Kanto earthquake, and Father was set up as the Ushiromiyas family head against his will. However, in the beginning, the elder relatives treated Kinzo like a dummy and influenced him powerfully, almost like he was a puppet. He wasn't permitted to decide anything by himself, not even his marriage partner. Ever since he met that golden witch Beatrice in those distant days, Kinzo's legend of the gold was quickly embellished into something dramatic. In other words, it could mean that Kinzo really did find a woman he loved. If she also knew the whole story, even if they weren't marriage partners, it wouldn't have been odd for her to consider herself his true wife inside her heart. And now the person registered as his true wife was already dead. Are we ever gonna, get a flashback to see the actual, Mrs. Ushiromiyas, you know? Which means she might feel confident staking her claim. Not just for the rights to his assets, but regarding the battle over the headship, too. I see. I'm starting to see the purpose of this letter. The headship goes to the one who solves the riddle of the epitaph. Is that what it means? Even if that mistress was added into the family ranking system, she isn't a direct relative of Father, so she'd be inferior even to the children. In other words, she'd be one step below Rosa in rank. That wouldn't be a good position to enter the battle for the headship from. I see, so that's it. If someone can solve the witch's riddle, they'll get the headship regardless of rank. In other words, it's the most advantageous condition Beatrice could possibly get, since she's got no chance otherwise. The revival of the Ushiromiyas family was made possible by the gold Beatrice had bestowed. That was quite a distinguishing service she had provided. She had built that wealth together with Kinzo, so it was natural that she would think of herself as the one who should inherit it. It would also be natural for her to despise the thought of giving it up to the children of the wife Kinzo never loved.
How could she be so impudent? Even if such a mistress actually exists, joining in on the battle for the rights to the head's inheritance would be a reckless action far above her place. What disregard for her own position.
Natsuhi turned red, her fist quivering. She had also come into the Ushiromiyas family register due to complicated circumstances. Those who knew that understood more or less why she was so angry for the sake of Kinzo's dead wife.
Well, thanks to that reckless action of hers, we all have an even chance now, right? Father has given it his silent approval. Will the person who succeeds the Ushiromiyas family be his mistress Beatrice, or one of us, the relatives he doesn't love? Maybe he wants to make us struggle over that to see who's worthy.
As Eva giggled roguishly, Kraus shrugged his shoulders and looked away.
However, since she's the one who brought this rule to light in the first place, maybe that means it gives her a significant advantage.
That's right! In the first place, if Beatrice meant that letter literally, then she's Father's alchemist. In other words, she's the manager of his gold. It wouldn't be strange at all if she knew where it was hidden, would it? Isn't that harsh? It's like she's given us a riddle she knows the answer to. She'll probably show up rudely, say, "Hey, here's the answer, I'll take the headship now," and snatch everything away from us.
That's right. The person who brings up a riddle always knows the answer. There's a good chance that this is a trap, all a trap to steal everything from us.
If you think about it like that, don't you start to doubt whether she really had any gold in the first place? Why would she tell us about it? All she has to do is keep quiet and embezzle it. It really is strange. That certainly was the case. If the epitaph showed the way to the hidden gold, why would she challenge them to try and solve it? If they actually did solve it, wouldn't the gold all be stolen from her? Could it be that this person was trying to stir the siblings up so they'd solve the epitaph, and then plan to steal it away at the last second? It was an extremely logical possibility.
No, that's wrong. If you spin the chessboard around, there might be a pretty good chance that they actually do have the gold. Why are you so certain?
Wait, sis. Kyrie, please keep talking. Why do you think that?
After all, do they really think we'll let go of the Ushiromiyas family headship just because someone tells us the answer to the riddle in the witch's epitaph? That we'll be so impressed by their answer that we'll just give up?
Well, that's true. No way they're so naive that they assumed we'd just give up after being told the answer to a riddle. That we just say, "Here you go," and hand it over.
Of course. The headship of the Ushiromiyas family is not something that can be handed over so easily. That's it exactly. No matter how Beatrice might one-sidedly propose a game like this, even if she were to spectacularly show us the answer, there's no way we'd obediently hand over the headship. In other words, unless she has a compelling force in the form of challenging us to a game with equal conditions for us all, this won't truly count as a game.
You're right. Unless the losers have no choice but to give up on the headship because of a compelling force, this won't really count as a game. And what might this compelling force be? Will they bind us in chains and threaten us into handing over the headship?
I see. I get it. They just have to do something to make us want to give up the headship willingly. Yes, I see. To do that, Beatrice would have to own 10 tons of gold.
I see. I get it too. In other words, it's a trade?
Huh? What do you mean? A trade? Trade what?
The Ushiromiyas family headship for the hidden gold. Beatrice surely plans to tell us the location of the 10 tons of gold, and use that as a bribe to gain the Ushiromiyas family headship.
Ridiculous! They want to trade the headship of the glorious Ushiromiyas family for money? That's blasphemy! Blasphemy against the Ushiromiyas family! Please listen without getting mad. About how much wealth does this glorious Ushiromiyas family have right now? Are we really that affluent? The definition of affluence is not dependent on property. It is about heart. Our financial situation has nothing to...
Krause interrupted Nazi as she started to go on and on emotionally. In this situation, the more she went on like that, the worse it would actually sound. Me aside, I hear your current situations are quite unfavorable.
Oh really? I've heard that your financial situation's really bad too. Offering up more and more as collateral for new money to gamble with. Repeatedly dabbling in new gambles, unable to accept your losses. If we count what's going on behind the scenes, you're in even bigger financial straits than the rest of us. Just how much money have you lost, Krause? You have no talent. Who are you saying has no talent? And what do you mean financial straits?
Natsuhi became indignant once more, but Krause raised his hand again and interrupted her. These fucking conferences, I swear to God. It seems you are making a small mistake. Business is not something that can be judged based on current progress alone. For someone with a long-term outlook on business such as myself, it may sometimes appear at a glance that I have suffered significant short-term losses. Bro, we've been collecting evidence. Your position right now isn't one to be proud of. So this is what Kyrie is trying to say. Every one of us has got money trouble, and Beatrice is 10 tons of gold. As the only person who knows the location of the 10 tons of gold, Beatrice is planning on using it to force us all to sell the headship. About how much is 10 tons of gold worth? At a rough estimate, let's say 2 billion yen? No, 20 billion yen. With that much piled up, we'd be ecstatic to accept her as the successor. That's right, yes. The scene returned to silence. In fact, the rain and wind felt even noisier now. It was probably the sound of the windstorm racing through the insides of their minds.
This isn't funny. To think we'd give up the headship to some woman of doubtful origin just because she had a little money stored up?
Don't be stupid. The headship wasn't even yours in the first place, right? We've got nothing to lose and money to gain. We'll have to calculate our profit and loss, but it's something worth listening to. They knew that Krause had eaten up much of the Ushiromiyas family's assets, so it was dregs that remained of that inheritance, versus the cost of being accepted as the head that Beatrice would pay. It was a shame, but honestly, the former was less enticing than the latter. Well, it probably wouldn't end up as 4 equal portions. Since Bro would be given up his position of successor, his portion would have to be larger. Makes me feel kinda jealous, you know? Dots.
Dear, the amount of money isn't the problem, right? Your cowardly younger siblings are trying to sell the glory of the Ushiromiyas family for money, don't you see? Why aren't you displaying your dignity as the oldest son?
Natsuhi, stay quiet for a while.
Dear?
Ah, shit, this is getting bad. This is a dizzying proposal. We were each planning on getting 250 million yen out of Bro. If the witch treats us with 10% of those 10 tons,
That's 2 billion.
Yeah. That means she's treating us with 10 times our original goal. That alone would be more than enough for us. It's not like I've got any attachment to the Ushiromiya name. I'd be happy to sell it off.
Even if 10 tons is a slightly optimistic figure, yes, it'd still be a fascinating prospect for us. We were trying to form an alliance among the siblings to kick this outsider called Beatrice out. But if this is her plan, it'll tear apart the unity between us. Yeah, by this point we can state it clearly. The goal of Beatrice's letter was to disturb our alliance.
Huh. If the 3 younger siblings who never had anything to do with the inheritance were paid enough money to satisfy them, they would happily accept Beatrice as the next head. A moat had been dug all around Krause. In that case, the negotiations would be one-on-one between her and Krause. He tried to look strong, but Krause's financial and political situation was extremely weak. He might bluff in front of his siblings, but on the inside he was considering entering negotiations, depending on the sum of money involved. In order to bury his losses, Krause had taken advantage of the fact that Kinzo had shut himself up in his room and had embezzled Kinzo's personal assets. Therefore, when Kinzo died and the inheritance was distributed, Krause's situation would probably be investigated. But if he gave up his seat as the head to Beatrice, she would also receive rights to the assets, and as a result, the distribution of the inheritance to the siblings would not occur. In other words, Krause's embezzlement might not have been might not have to be made known to the other siblings. Of course, the siblings were frightened of Kinzo, but it was doubtful whether they still actually respected him as a father. By this time, they each had their own families, their own wealth, and their own lives. If they were paid enough money in exchange for Rokkenjima, the wreckage of Kinzo's dreams, there was a significant likelihood that they'd relinquish the Ushiromiyas family name. In other words, Beatrice's victory was already guaranteed in this game. Not as the winner of Beatrice's game, but as the winner of Kinzo's game. Kinzo once ordered that the epitaph be put on display, and until today, no one had solved it. So Beatrice solved it. In other words, this is less of a game and more like Beatrice's declaration of victory. However, Kyrie still thought there might be a catch. If this was a declaration of victory, Beatrice would only have had to display the gold openly and state her intent to buy the inheritance. And yet, she had gone to all of this trouble telling the siblings to try and solve the epitaph. Why did she set up this new game where she agreed to hand over all of the gold and the inheritance to the epitaph solver? Kyrie tried spinning the chessboard around several times. She searched for the sort of ideal strategy Beatrice might be after, something that could lead to this kind of thinking. In the end, she reached a single conclusion. And so... Oh, I have to click? Could it be arrogance? Or maybe she's playing? What are you talking about? The witch sent us a letter of challenge, forcing us to try and solve the epitaph. She might be taking us lightly, thinking we can never solve it. However, at the very least, there ought to be an extremely small chance that we do solve it. After all, we have here 4 of Father's children by blood, right? The questioner called together 4 blood relatives who, if they tried frantically to work together and avoid having those assets stolen from them, might come across the answer of the riddle by chance. The reason the witch had a superior position in negotiations compared to the siblings was that only she knew the location of the hidden gold. But if that hiding place was exposed to someone other than her, the witch's advantage would crumble. In short, Beatrice gains nothing but risk by writing this witch's letter of challenge. Of course, it might have had the effect of splitting apart the siblings' alliance. But if that was her only goal, why would she take this risk, however slight it might be? That seems reckless to me. But if we keep in mind a certain type of emotion, that risk becomes comprehensible. And you're saying it's arrogance? Yes, that's right. When people have an overwhelming advantage, they tend to get arrogant. And when they do, they want to show off that advantage to the losers, so they sometimes take on small risks. A moderate amount of risk adds a little spice to the joy of victory. It'd be boring to win without any risk. I understand. I like that kind of thing too. Yeah, I understand it well. I thought of a few plausible explanations for the true motive behind Beatrice's letter, but I think this really might be the truth. The emotion hidden behind that letter was arrogance. Arrogance. She's trying to throw her weight around, looking down on us as if there's no way we could figure out such a difficult epitaph. It might even be possible, if surprising, that the epitaph wasn't written by Father, but by her. Sounds great. Solve the riddle of the epitaph, she says. Oh. Hello. If only I solved it, I would be made the head, right? I'll solve it. I'll accept the witch's challenge. As if those other idiot siblings could solve it. I'll solve it by myself, and then I'll prove that I'm the one who's fit to succeed the Ushiromiyas family. Yeah, you try that, young Eva. I'll take that challenge. I will. Solve the riddle. Nope, shattered. The current time is 9. Okay. Okay.